Ready, set, art. So to get ready for the duck stamp contest, we're going to practice drawing ducks in graphite. That's the first part. And then in the next sketchbook assignment, we'll try drawing ducks with colored pencil. Here's that one. See, it's just like that one, but with colored pencil. And then this one here, you see the wood duck and the reflections there. We'll deal with that. When we get to the colored pencil one, I'll stick with the same type of mallard, but in colored pencil with the water to show that. So this will be in the next sketchbook assignment, and in this one we'll focus on the graphite side of it. Okay, so I want to start by showing how to draw this type of duck, your most common one, right? I have plain white paper, I have a pencil, a regular eraser, and a little paintbrush. I'll show you what to do with that in just a moment. So to get started, and I make sure to keep my sharpener there too. We're going to start by doing some angles. So traditionally when you're doing proportion drawing, you use angles to figure out your access lines, okay? So this angle's like this, and I just hold that angle and I draw this line. Then I hold this angle and draw that line. Hold this angle and draw this line. I'm going to go over here to get this part. And if you look, we essentially have the correct angles to figure out how to draw our duck. The next part I want to do is drawing the body. And ducks have this interesting body because it's heavy right here and then heavy here and then kind of slender in the middle. So I'm going to go ahead and draw this back part, this odd shape, and then the front. And I'm kind of just lightly sketching so you can see it's starting to create that form. And then I'm going to bring this up, and then the shape of the duck's head is interesting as we get to here. Most birds, their eyes line up with the midsection of their mouth, and in this case ducks, their eyes are higher, and then it comes out further here. So traditionally you might see a bird more where it's like this, and then the eye lines up here. See, that's more traditional. But the duck is different. And then, of course, the famous part about the duck is that bill. So you could see how I kind of shaped it, and then it's really close to the bottom part of their beak. I'm going to go ahead and create this shape. And then, like I said, the eye is really close up here instead. It's not lining up with the midsection of that mouth. Because this is a male, I'm going to go ahead and put this section in. And then I'm going to go ahead and line up where my feathers are. I'm going to angle with the legs. See that? So that helps me. When you do those angles again, it really helps with getting those proportions a little better. And then it's mostly, whenever you do observation drawings, I tend to notice that I have to look at the drawing 50%, I have to look at the actual subject matter 50% of the time, and the other half of the time I'm actually looking at the drawing. Okay, so I have the main part in, and now it's time for some basic shading. So I want to start with in here. I realize with this class you have already done some basic shading. I'm just kind of doing some quick ones. I'm going to try to keep it light around the eye, and then I'm going to put a little circle up there at the top and then fill it in. And what that does is it makes the eye look more three-dimensional. I might have to bring in this beak more. Art's all about correcting mistakes. We always have to do that, right? No big deal. I'm going to add that little nostril there. So again, some more shading. I'm not going to shade the whole thing because in Google Classroom attached is going to be the example, but I just kind of want to see how you get started, right? Okay, so I have my basics in, and I start shading like so. I press harder in one section and lightly go out. When I was looking at the original photo, And attached in Google Slide, you'll see a Google Slides of the different ducks. And this one's in the first slide. You'll see that there was some interesting shading. I try to be really careful with smudging. If anything, I try to do most of my shading just with the pencil, just like this, right? Maybe there's a highlight there, see that? And that helps with that as well. I'm going to add some textures with my pencil. Now me, I don't even think that needs any smudging, as in using my paintbrush to little smudge. If you did, it would just kind of be gentle like that. I never use my fingers because of the oil in my fingers. I don't use a Q-tip. I only use the paintbrush for small areas. Shading should only count for maybe 10% of your piece. Okay, so now I just want to put in some feather marks here and there. Remember, this is for your sketchbook assignment, so we're really just figuring out placement, right? And you could do this all over, but I want to show you my other smudging technique. I like to use my eraser, my pink eraser, and kind of go in a circular motion right on top. Gentle. And it really ends up doing a slight smudge, but it keeps some of the texture there, so we're able to see some of the feathering. Let's do some more right here. I am going to erase my access line that's in there though. It's in the way. And I'm going to put in the smaller little guarded feathers. I just want to show you a quick trick with these type of feathers. Okay, so before I shade here, this is overlapping this. So that means I should shade underneath. That's right. That way it keeps a highlight there. Okay, and then we gently, and then I do the same thing. I go back to here and shade out. Feathers have those quills, so I'm going to just put those in kind of like that. That way the shading's more like this and it makes kind of more sense that way. You'd want to keep going until you're at this point, and that's a very good start. And a final drawing, you would really make sure to take the time to shade well and have more even texturing, but for a sketchbook assignment, that's pretty good. Let's go ahead and move on to the wood duck. Yes, the wood duck, okay? So if you look at this, it's really interesting how the shape is. It really reminds you of the mandarin ducks, although our North American duck version of that has more traditional colors like the mallard here with the evergreen and the browns and the black, okay? But the main point of showing this one is not so much the duck itself, but how to deal with water, Now I do like how with this, even though this is realistic, I like how the water creates this abstract shape of the bird. Okay, so we're going to move that this way. I'm going to put that there. I'm going to start with my access lines. See that? This just helps me to figure this out. Now, if you notice, this one looks fatter, right? Because it's out of the water. Well, when it's in the water, only half of it we're going to see. It's like the water cuts off right here, right? So, with this duck, the wood duck, you're not going to see as much of it. It looks thinner, but that's because a lot of it is under water. Okay, so I'm just trying to create this shape, and you're probably noticing the beak is different than your regular duck, and that's fine. Different waterfowl. I created the basic shape. I'm going to add this in. Okay. I already kind of showed basic shading in the other one, so you're going to follow the same idea that we did before. All right, where you kind of just start filling in. I'm going to leave a little bit of a white space around here and then just kind of work my way out. Right? Showing that eye trick again where I put this little circle here and then fill in. That way it creates that highlight. I can keep going, but you want to shade to this point. Okay. Now let's figure out water. So because this is circular or ellipse-like, what I want to do is kind of just start with those ellipse-like shapes as a guideline going around, kind of just giving me an idea of where to go. So I have a few sketches going around, and now I'm ready to outline where the white areas will be. It's more abstract, you know, so I can't really say, you know, if you make yours slightly different than mine, that's fine, because you're dealing with abstract shapes in here anyway. It's an abstract idea. It's not going to even make sense in a way. But I am going to start right here, and I'm going to draw darker just so you can see, but normally you wouldn't draw this dark. So I'm kind of drawing these reflection areas, circling, sorry. See that? And then you would shade around it. Shade around it. I didn't actually use a blender on here, but you could kind of gently blend here and there if you had to. And then what I like to do is once I'm here, I add another little white streak. See that? And you would shade around. Now, what I noticed when I had to draw ripples is that white, dark, medium, back to dark, and white. So that's how it goes. White, dark, medium, dark, white again. So I'm going to go ahead and make this a little darker. Right? But then when we get to here, it's going to be lighter, like a medium tone, but then dark again. See it? So as water goes, it's kind of like highlight, shadow, medium, shadow, highlight. That's how it's going. So I would keep shading just like that. White, shadow, medium, shadow, white, and I just kind of keep going. Let me do a little bit more over here. One of the things I wanted to do is kind of just shape in a weird way where that duck head is. See that? That way, and then shape here. I'm going to continue this line. This goes up right here where that tail is. See that? And then I'm going to shade most of that, except I'm going to keep some white areas. So I'm going to shade most of this and keep some white. And that's what you see here. It's kind of like this weird abstract reflection of my bird. I'm going to do one more section over here just so you can see the shadowing. So white, right? White, shadow, smooth gradations. I'm going to fill it in actually. Sometimes that's easier. Fill, 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 fill. And then shade. Shade on this side and work my way in. So again, we're trying to create this ripple effect. You would fill this in similar to what I did here, and that would finish up ducks and graphite. Thank you and good luck.